So welcome back to the channel and welcome to a totally lost day here in the Netherlands. I feel kind of stupid. Last night I was checking the weather apps that I have and I thought, it's going to be clouds, nothing interesting. I'm going to stay in, don't go out for photography. And look at this sky. Maybe it's difficult to see, but I just took an image and some absolutely amazing conditions here. You know, there's almost no wind, a beautiful red sky. Listen to those birds. Really nice sounds of nature here. So it was absolutely worth going out for a trip. And I used to do this. I used to go out all the time for photography, just like I could have done today. You know, if you don't go, you have nothing to show. That's one thing that's for sure. So I want to make this video as a bit of a reminder for myself and maybe for you, that it's always worth to go out, no matter what the conditions are. Just try to adapt to it, try to find some new images. So let's get back in the house and let's go back to some occasions where I didn't expect anything, where I just went out for photography without expectations, without checking the weather. I just adapted to the situation and tried to create something with the weather that was available. So yeah. Missed opportunity, lesson learned. So you are going out for photography and it's an overcast day, only clouds or maybe even rain. What are you going to do? These are a couple of tips that I'm going to give you what you can do in these certain situations to still get the maximum of your day. And let's start with tip number 1. Let's actually hope, just hope for something amazing to happen. For example here, this image, where a small break in the clouds made sure that there was some beautiful light coming from the sun. This appeared for maybe 2 minutes and then it was gone, and for the rest of the morning I didn't see any light anymore. Let's stay in the red sky like I saw this morning and I didn't go out. Same lake as in the last image, totally overcast day, and I was sitting there on the edge of the water and this beautiful red sky appeared. If you stay in your house, you will never see things like this, because you see an overcast and you're thinking, oh, I'm staying in my bed. But if there is one small gap in the clouds, this can happen. So this can only happen on days with clouds, you know, on overcast days. So just go out and experience these things. Or for example here in Scotland, and there's actually a video here where I recorded this. This is a completely overcast day. I went to Glencoe, maybe the worst conditions to be there. No rain or snow or anything, no light, but on the far horizon I noticed these light rays, and I used the 300mm to stitch those 16 vertical shots together to only photograph these light rays coming from the sky. And this is what I mean with hope, you know, just try to aim for those situations that you can't predict on front, and just go with the flow, just adapt to what you see. Here another example of a little bit of light coming through a thick layer of clouds at the end of the evening, just lighting up the mountains that I'm facing with the little white house in the bottom. It's just luck, you know, hope, luck. It's about the same for a landscape photographer. Or this amazing day in the south of France. It was a day with the biggest thunderclouds that I have ever seen. Hail, storm, a lot of rain. I don't know what we experienced that day, but I was photographing a couple of trees there, or actually the storm just stopped just before sunset. And I said to my wife, I'm going out, you will never know what will happen when I'm out there. So I drove for about 10 minutes to the closest nature reserve that I could find, and I noticed these trees here, and I was shooting those trees, and I thought, wow, this is nice. But then I just stood up and looked the other way around, and you can see here in the little clip that I'm recording that I was thinking to myself, oh, look at that light. Oh my God. You have to see this. like that. What an experience. And I just knew that I needed to photograph this shot. And this only appeared for a little bit of light hitting the underside of the clouds just after that enormous hail, rain, thunderstorm that had passed for the whole day. But that light at the last minute before sunset was absolutely amazing and worth going out. But of course, if there's no light, you can also aim for clouds. You know, this is in Switzerland, where I was just looking for clouds to pass on the mountain slopes on particularly interesting areas. And I really loved this shot where those clouds just rolled by those trees on the hill. And yeah, it just looks really nice to me. And the same here, beautiful waterfall. There's no light at all, but the clouds just passed this waterfall in a really nice spot. I just really love the atmosphere that is coming from this particular image, just because of the clouds passing at that exact moment. But what I try to do a lot of times is just go out and look for small things. So that's tip number 2. If nothing really spectacular happens in the weather, just look for smaller things. For example, here I was in a forest, nothing happened. I was hoping for light rays, but it was an overcast, dull day. And I just ended up shooting straight down to the ground, looking at some mosses and little plants and pine tree needles that were laying in a pool of water there. And you can still see a little bit of the clouds here through the canopy, yeah, on top. And I used the polarizer here to just get a little bit of contrast between the greens and yeah, the darker side of the water. So I really love this image, and it wouldn't have happened if I would have stayed at home and thought this is not going to happen. And also this image, there was a little bit of light coming through at one point, and I was shooting this little mushroom. I don't know what it's called in English, but I used the light available to create this atmosphere on the top of the screen with these bouquet balls, and it just looks really nice to me. Just something to do on a dull day. Or you can totally plan it if you're in the right, of course you have to be in the right time of the year, but if you know that it's an overcast, you can also say I'm going to change my subject completely and go to photograph small things, like I did here in last year. I went out and searched for little butterflies. These butterflies here are only here for a couple of weeks in a particular area, so there was nothing spectacular going around in cases of weather. So I went out there and just searched for these very small, they are about this big, butterflies. So it's about the top of your thumb that you have to look for. But it's really fun, something different, and still you can get home with some really nice images. What I always like to do, and that's tip number 3, look for contrasts, look for different colors, different shapes, different light and darker positions. Like for example in this image where I used the polarizer and really created this contrast between the leaf and the dark water in the background. It's actually a little river flowing underneath this branch here with those leaves on it. And what you see in the reflection is the canopy of the trees above the water. So yeah, I really like the abstract shape of this particular image. Same situation here, where there was just a little bit of light coming through a cloud hitting a part of a leaf in a forest. So I underexposed the image to only isolate this particular leaf, and it worked out pretty well. But also here in Belgium last year during my autumn workshop, and I'm running that workshop again this year. So if you're interested in joining me on the autumn workshop, it will be in October, late October or beginning of November, somewhere there. I'm going to run this workshop again in National Park Les Houters. So if you're interested, go to my website and have a look at my workshop. You can already sign in if you want to. But it was a rainy day, totally overcast, and in the middle of the rain I shot this image, just a nice leaf laying on a rock in a dark river. So I polarized this scene and created this really nice contrast and a really nice shot. What contrast can also be, for example, this waterfall. You know, I underexposed the image so that the darker parts on the side here from the waterfall were going to be a little bit darker, and the brighter part was not affected. So this is a shot on a really dull, overcast day, but I just really seem to like it. And maybe I think there was a little bit of light at that moment hitting that waterfall, creating this beautiful situation. But absolutely phenomenal moment there. But what you can also do, and that's tip number 4, is make use of technology. For example, in your camera. This first image that you're seeing is actually a double exposure. And this was the most dull day that I have in the last 2 years. Totally gray, totally overcast, nothing going on. I was in the complete wrong area, an area with open spaces, header, nothing to do there when you're having a dull, overcast day. So I started to experiment a little bit, and in the end I came up with this double exposure. So it's actually a group of silver birch trees in the first shot, and the second shot is just some leaves totally out of focus as a second shot, and it really worked well together. So really nice thing to do, double exposures. Also nice long exposures. For example, this is shot in the middle of the rain, in the middle of a forest last year, but I really, my attention was pulled to all those abstract forms and this one leaf in the water. So everything here is a reflection, except for this bush, of course, that's standing over here. So I really tried to isolate that bush, used a long exposure shot. I have no idea, maybe it was 5 or 10 seconds, I have to lie for it. But I really like the outcome of this particular image by using the technology of a filter, or in my case, the Live ND filter in my camera. What you can also do is use a polarizer. For example, here I used it on a bit of ice, polarized the scene, and also in post-processing, I did a little bit of dehazing on this image. When you dehaze icy images, they turn a little bit more blue. It just gives a really nice effect. So I did it on this image and also on this second image. So when there's ice around or snow, it always works to use a polarizer, even on days when there is no sun at all. Next tip, what's also nice to do is just change your subject. Go out for to find some animals. It can be birds, wildlife. Of course, it all depends on the area that you live. And right here in the Netherlands, it's not the best position for a wildlife photographer. But when I'm out on trips, on holiday, I sometimes just make the switch, or I come across them by accident, like this time in Scotland when I saw a couple of red deer on a beautiful overcast day. This is shot last year. It was a really foggy, grey morning, and I noticed this beautiful, I think it's a buzzard, sitting on top of this tree, and a little bit of light just came through this dense layer of fog. But still I managed to get this bird completely in focus, and I really love this image. And this is actually at 600mm with the 300mm and the 2x converter. So a really nice moment. And this is also on the same day that I shot the panorama with all those light rays. After that, the light disappeared and it got a really dull grey day. And then I noticed these beautiful red deer. Yeah, giving a little bit of distraction, just make sure that I come home with some nice images. And that's something that I always try to do. I just like to come back home with at least one image that I like, and that can be a big landscape, it can be a panorama, beautiful light, but it can also be something small or an animal or something really abstract. I actually really don't care. I just care for coming home with a nice feeling of creating something that I really like. So this was a really nice experience with the red deer, but also recently on my trip to Sweden, on a couple of occasions when there was not much going on weather-wise, I shot some reindeer that were in really nice situations. And at first I just tried to shoot them really close up, but at one point I just started to try to include them to the landscape, and it really worked well on this image and on the second image here when they were walking on this really large lake with ice. And yeah, I think it's just something really fun to do, to change your subject to wildlife photographer. So yeah, absolutely worth making that switch. What you can also do is turn all your images to black and white. For example, here this was a really bad day about 2 years ago in the winter in Belgium. Lots of snow, wind, mist. Yeah, it was so cold and there was so much wind that I actually doubted to drive back home. But I pushed through all this crazy weather, and I ended up with this really nice black and white image of those trees, dead trees in the snow. And yeah, I don't know if I'm ever gonna encounter a situation like this again. This is from that same trip where you can see that it's really a lot of fog. Yeah, absolutely amazing moment there in Belgium. Also here just around the corner in the Netherlands, a really dull day. It was a great day, lots of fog, but I used this path to, yeah, create something interesting here, to lead your eye to the back. There's not much there, but still this image just looks really nice. And sometimes, like in this video, and I'll put a link up here if you haven't seen it, yeah, everything comes together. All those tips come together in one day. For example, this day started with my son standing out there pointing, "We have to go that way, Daddy." And so I took a quick picture of him, turned it into black and white, and I really seem to like this image. And of course, maybe it's because it's a little bit sentimental for me because my son is in that image. But I like the composition of him pointing towards the end of this curving road, this bowl-shaped hill in front, a little bit of contrast in those clouds. I just really like it. But a couple of minutes later, maybe half an hour later, we found this nice waterfall where I could use a little bit of longer exposures, also turn it into black and white, yeah, to make sure that we could, that I could take a nice image of this waterfall. And also maybe another 30 minutes later, we found this dipper here. Yeah, and I just started to shoot birds on this side. And I was thinking to myself, well, I have at least three reasonable, nice images at this point. So black and white, moving water with a long exposure. I shot a bird. Well, for me, that was a really nice day. But when I drove back down from the mountain, this crazy thing happened when, yeah, this light ray came through the clouds and it just passed on the other side of the log, and I just followed it with my camera, and then at one point it passed this grouping of trees here, and I just pushed the shutter, and I knew that that was a really nice image. So I underexposed it a little bit to make sure that the sides around it were darker, and only this lit up part was the main focal point. So I created that by underexposing the image. And yeah, the last tip that I have for you, just always remember that sometimes it happens that you come back home with nothing. You know, you never go out for nothing. It's also nice to be out there, to enjoy nature, to listen to those sounds. And if there on those 1 or 2 occasions a year, there is absolutely nothing to shoot or to find, just go back home and try again next time. And I always do the same with this tree here in a national park pretty close by here. And I shot this image on a really dull day. I shot nothing on that day, just went back home after about 2 hours walking. And it's okay, you know, because I know that better opportunities are coming. Every time I go there, I shoot this tree, and you can see that every time the area is different, and you're only going out there for this one magical time, and like in this image, and then everything comes together. that's actually what I always try to do. I just go somewhere. Sometimes it's nice just to know a new area, to see trees, and the next time you're there, you're just knowing, okay, that tree might be nice for this situation. And that's what I try to do over the past 2.5 years that I'm making these YouTube videos. I try to get more areas into my brain, knowing a little bit more to this. And these days I can just walk out, look to the sky and think to myself, this is a nice day for that particular area. And I just go there and I see whatever I can find. Of course, my camera system really works that I can bring a large telephoto for 500mm zoom, a wide angle 7mm and a macro lens at one time, and really adapt to everything that I see. But that's something that you can really aim for. Just try and find these situations, or try to adapt your kit that you can adapt yourself to all these different weather conditions. And so you can, even on dull days, try and find something really nice to photograph. So yeah, those were my tips, and I hope next time that you're out having a day like this, you're thinking to yourself, whoa, let's go for black and white, let's go for something small, that at least you're having some fun on that day, instead of walking around with a sad face and thinking, this is a shit day, this is absolutely nothing. But you could have stayed in bed and done nothing that morning. So it's always worth to go out there. And if you're out there, then like this morning, sometimes magical things happen, and sometimes you have to adapt, and sometimes it's just totally lost. So this is it. Hope you liked the video. If you did, please leave a comment and push that thumbs up button. You will massively help this channel to grow. And don't forget, there is a subscribe button underneath this video. If you push that and select all on the notification bell, you will get a message when I release my next video. Next video will be this Sunday, another really moody, foggy day here in the Netherlands. So make sure to check that out. So thanks for watching. Hope to see you next time. Bye bye.